Hey guys, Blake here with Torque Boards. In this video tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to install your TB6 heatsink right here onto your TB40 B3H enclosure. What we're going to need for this is our enclosure right here, of course, and our TB6 heatsink itself. And right here we have the rubber seal, which is actually going to go around the heatsink right here before we install it. And right here we have a heatsink thermal pad, which our ESCs are going to end up later on getting attached to. And right here we have our Torque 6 dual heatsink bolt kit. And this is what we're going to be using to install the heatsink right here to the enclosure. And these holes around the heatsink part of our enclosure are going to line up with the holes on our heatsink itself right here. And this is where all of our bolts are going to go. There are some bolts in this bolt kit that we're going to be saving and not using in this tutorial video, and those bolts will be for installing the TB6s onto our heatsink. And those bolts that we're not going to be using are 8 M3 by 25 millimeter button cap bolts. So we can separate these M3 by 25 millimeter button cap bolts that we're going to be using on the ESCs and set these off to the side. And just for clarification, there's going to be 4 of these for each ESCs, so 8 total. And right here we have our 6 M3 by 20 millimeter button cap bolts, and these 2 bolts right here, these ones are smaller and are actually M3 by 12 millimeter socket cap bolts. And these 2 right here are going to go on the holes of our heatsink right here on these 2 holes. And all the other holes will get the M3 by 20 millimeter button cap bolt. Before we bolt the heatsink on, the first thing that we're going to need to do is apply this Torque 6 waterproof seal onto the heatsink itself. And this has a peel off adhesive back that we're just gonna stick onto here. So we just want to peel the back of this off and carefully stick this onto the heatsink while making sure that our holes with the rubber seal align with the holes on the heatsink. After you've confirmed that all of your holes are lined up evenly, you want to apply pressure to get this seal to stick down nicely. What we're going to do next is take our heatsink with our rubber seal installed, and this is going to go underneath our enclosure, and it's going to fit in this cutout right here, just like this. And now we're going to want to insert all of our bolts around through the holes right here. So the M3 by 12 millimeter socket cap bolts will go in these 2 top holes right here, and all the other 6 holes right here around the heatsink are going to get the M3 by 20 millimeter button cap bolts. And then after we get all of those bolts secured through this side, we'll want to flip the enclosure around and put our washers and lock nuts on the other side of the bolts that come up through these holes and tighten all those down to get this heatsink fully secured in our deck. Here we have the front side fully bolted down and assembled, so we can flip our enclosure over. Now we can add the washers and lock nuts to the bolts on the other side of our heatsink right here. So we're just going to take these and install them. So we're going to want to put our washers on first, like so, and then follow up with our lock nuts right here. And then we're going to want to tighten everything down. And these 2 bolts right here in the middle of our heatsink, which were our 2 M3 by 12 millimeter button cap bolts, these are going to be resting flush with the heatsink right here because our ESCs are actually going to need to go in the middle of everything right here. So all of the 8 bolts get washers and lock nuts except for these 2 in the middle right here. Here's what your washers and lock nuts will look like once they're secure on the back side of your heatsink. So our heatsink is now secure on our enclosure right here. And that about wraps it up for this tutorial on how to install your heatsink onto your enclosure. We're actually going to be saving this part of the heatsink assembly for the next tutorial video, which is going to be a tutorial on how to install your ESCs onto the heatsink. And we're just going to be saving this part right here because our ESCs have to rest on top of this. So look forward to that video coming soon from us, and don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment down below if you'd like to see something specific coming from us. Thanks, have a good day.